Why hello everybody and happy Halloween. So I'm not someone who likes showing my face. I haven't shown my face on camera in a while, but I figured that if I did for this video, it would just be a lot quicker to make, quicker to edit, so that is why I'm doing so. And as you can see, I don't have a lot of Halloween decorations. I have a gourd here, but no pumpkin. I didn't have a pumpkin, so for right now, this gourd and Skeletor will just have to make do. So yeah, this is gonna be a rather unprofessional video. If I make mistakes, I make mistakes. I'm just gonna go with that. But if you don't already know, I am somebody who absolutely loves Halloween, and that is mostly because I have a strong love of horror movies. So today I decided I would go over 15 horror movies that are set on Halloween. Although a few of these will be more like comedy than horror, but I tried to make sure they were movies that people who are horror fans will still enjoy. Some of these you may know, some of these you may not know. I think it's more than likely if you're a horror fan, you'll probably have seen all of these already, but you know, I just want to spread some Halloween cheer, kind of introduce some people to some movies they might not know exist. This isn't a ranked list. Like I said, it's an unprofessional video, so it's just gonna be 15 movies set on Halloween that I think you should check out. And I'm not gonna get to all of them. There is like so many horror movies set on Halloween that I either haven't seen or I just didn't think was really worth putting on this list. So I'm just gonna get through, as I said, 15 of them, the ones I really liked and the ones I think you should check out as soon as possible.
The one, the only, the classic Halloween.
I think he'll come back.
Halloween, the night he came home.
Number one is the most obvious one on the list, and that, of course, is the original John Carpenter Halloween from 1978. So this is, of course, one of the more classic films on the list. Halloween, it's a simple and very effective horror movie. A lot of people have gone on to say that this movie inspired the slasher genre and kind of made it what it is. Not true, but nonetheless, it's still a very well-made slasher movie. I think what really makes this horror movie stand out from all the other ones, both before and after it, is just the Halloween setting. It really is what makes the film worth watching every year and what just makes it so unique. It encouraged a lot of horror tropes, both for better and for worse, I'd say. Of course, everyone loves Laurie Strode. She's great in this movie. Jamie Lee Curtis does a great job. I think my personal favorite was Dr. Samuel Loomis. He's such a fun character. He kind of goes into crazy territory in the sequels, but I actually really like that aspect of him. But yeah, I love Dr. Loomis. I love Halloween. It's a great movie to check out and just watch every once in a while.
You don't really know much about Halloween.
Witchcraft.
The last great one took place 3,000 years ago when the hills ran red. The world's going to change tonight, Doctor. Happy Halloween.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the night no one comes home.
Okay, I promise that the rest of this list, it's not just going to be all Halloween franchise movies. I mean, it could be. There are a few I like, but I probably could only make like a top 5. I don't think there's enough good Halloween sequels. But Halloween 3 is like the perfect Halloween movie. It's one of 2 movies on this list that I think are essential to watch every year. As many of us know, after the events of Halloween 2, Halloween as a franchise was going to go into the anthology route, and it was going to be each film was its own separate story, all set on Halloween. An idea that I really love, but people at the time, of course, didn't. They just wanted to see Michael Myers return, which is why Halloween 3 didn't do so well. But what I love about Halloween 3 is that I'm a big fan of like campy movies, whether it be horror or not, and this movie is just so campy and so bizarre. For one, I love that the villain in this movie isn't a generic slasher villain. He's not some monster. He is an evil businessman, played by the old man in RoboCop, Apologies, I don't remember what the actor's name was. Tom Atkins, great in this movie. This and Night of the Creeps are like his best roles. I love him in this movie. I think the best way I would describe Halloween 3 with its campy weirdness, it feels like it's like a strange horror novel. To be fair, it's like a horror novel that someone like Stephen King would write and just be like, oh, this is awful, and then immediately throw it out. But I love this movie. It's so much fun. It's just drenched in that Halloween spirit. Of course, you have the killer mask, where if a kid puts on a mask, like snakes and bugs will be teleported into their mask and eat them alive, and that's all part of the villain's evil plan. It's just so weird, and there's something just so like sinister and cynical about like children being murdered on Halloween, but I think that's what makes it like such a fun, campy, weird watch. I'm going to be saying this a lot throughout the video, but check this one out.
Executive producers Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg.
Possessed house, you say?
On July 21st.
We're gonna have to go inside. Wow.
The Haunt.
Have fun getting killed.
Is on.
Dude, we're toast. Whatever.
Monster House.
The house, they're trying to eat us!
Calm down. You make me want to throw up in some tinfoil and eat it.
In 3D and selected theaters.
Okay, so some of you may be going like, Monster House, that's not a horror movie. Which for me it is. It's definitely a kid's movie first above all else, but I think it's like a fun kind of kids introduction to horror movie. There's other films like that that kind of introduce kids to horror, whether it be Coraline or Paranorman. Both movies I really enjoy. But this is the one where it's actually set on Halloween, so it's the one I'm going to be talking about. First of all, this movie, I watched it again not too long ago. It is surprisingly hilarious. Surprisingly enough, it's actually written by Dan Harmon and Rob Schrab, some of the minds behind like Rick and Morty, Community, and all that. It's just bizarre because usually when I watch like a kids movie, the humor isn't always my favorite part. You know, like kids movies can be funny. I've laughed at them before, but often it's just I'm just watching them because I like animation and not really because I think they're funny. But Monster House is like a huge exception. There's like a killer house in this movie that eats everyone as they go by the house. Some of the stuff with the house in this is just really inventive, and there's some like really cool visuals in it. They really played around with like the house's anatomy. The only detriment to this movie I'd say is there is some really awkward animation. I believe this was part of Robert Zemeckis' like production studio where he does like the mocap films. The one advantage that this movie has over like those Robert Zemeckis mocap films is really that it's done in like a style that is unique. It's not just that overly realistic CG that looks terrible and like Polar Express and stuff. It's actually got its own like cartoony style. And it doesn't always look good. There's a part where the kid Chowder in this movie is like playing basketball, and you can just tell something is incredibly off, but I think it's forgivable just solely because of how funny this movie is. Also, it's got Steve Buscemi in like one of his best roles. He's just the crazy neighbor yelling at kids to get off his lawn. It's a lot of fun.
Every year on Halloween, this town goes batshit crazy.
Trick or treat.
Tales of Halloween is a horror anthology. I think most horror anthologies will have like maybe 3 to 5 stories, but this one has 10. Is it good? No. I mean, I think with like 10 separate stories, it's kind of hard to make an anthology movie that doesn't feel like a mess, but it's fun nonetheless, and I think the fact that the stories are so short is what makes it so watchable. It definitely varies a lot in quality. Some of these shorts are like actually pretty good, and then some of them are like, what was that? That was terrible. And there's some real bizarre stories in this one too. I think one of my favorite stories, which wasn't even that good, but I still liked it, was one where a kid is dared to egg an old man's house, and of course the old man turns out to be Satan. So it's just kind of this kid and Satan team up, and they're just playing pranks on people on Halloween. only with a twist, but it's really goofy, it's really stupid, but it's fun and it definitely has that Halloween vibe to it. So Tales of Halloween isn't like a must-watch on this list, but it's something you could check out if you're interested in Halloween-themed horror anthologies.
I hate Halloween.
And speaking of horror anthologies, the next film on this list is Michael Dougherty's Trick or Treat. You really have to emphasize the R. It's Trick or Treat, you know? So this is that other movie on the list I mentioned that just really embodies the Halloween spirit, and I feel it's like one of those movies you have to watch every year. Actually, like, skipped theaters when it originally released, but since then it's gone on to become a cult classic. People love this movie now, me included. The reason this has caught on and become like such a sensation is because so many horror anthologies are just like really sloppy, but this is one of the rare exceptions where it is perfectly structured. Everything is connected, it's all leading up towards a great conclusion, and there's just so many segments in this that are memorable. And it makes that very clever choice where they save the best segment as the last one. Sam has gone on to become like a Halloween icon. He's basically the Santa Claus of Halloween now. Just go to a Spirit Halloween and you will know what I'm talking about. For some reason, Sam is just everywhere now. I've been trying to get a plushie from there forever and they're always sold out. So yeah, Trick or Treat, check it out.
You've heard of raising spirits from the dead by incantations, right? I did that by playing a record backwards.
These evil people have just got to be stopped.
What have you done to your stereo?
I wanted the new one.
Trick or Treat, rated R. Starts Friday, October 24th at theaters everywhere.
And speaking of Trick or Treat, it's time to talk about the reason the movie had to be called Trick or Treat, and that is the 1986 film Trick or Treat. Now this is a totally different film. Trick or Treat is another horror movie that is really just a lot of fun. It's stupid. It's really stupid, but it's a lot of fun. You got this loser character named Eddie who just loves like heavy metal music and he's bullied for it. And then his idol, Sammy Kerr, mysteriously dies. So Gene Simmons gives him a haunted record that if played backwards actually brings Sammy Kerr back from the dead. And yes, Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne both have cameos in this movie, so that makes it good, right? And you could look at like the whole thing with the record playing backwards and go, hey, they ripped off The Gate, that great Canadian classic The Gate. But no, this actually came out a year before The Gate, so The Gate kind of ripped off Trick or Treat. Sammy Kerr Ghost is amazing. He looks the same other than like a scar on his face. He shoots lightning bolts out his fingertips. I mean, what's not to love? I mean, that's really all that can be said about Trick or Treat. What's not to love? It's Trick or Treat.
You're gonna look perfect.
May.
So May is like the opposite of Trick or Treat. May is what I would call a feel-bad movie. And that doesn't mean it is bad, it just means you're not gonna feel very good after watching it. May is about a socially awkward girl who grows some confidence and ends up going into stalker territory. And by the end of the movie, she really takes things too far. I think that's the best description I can give without straight up spoiling it. But I think what makes this like stand out from those other horror movies is that you actually like really emphasize with May, like, you know she's awkward, you know you wouldn't want to hang out with her, but you can't help but feel bad for her. There's a lot of like really awkward scenes in this that are just like so cringe inducing, but that's what makes it great. Angela Bettis, if I'm saying that right, She gives an amazing performance here. She is so good in the lead role of May. But yeah, if you're someone who likes those like feel-bad horror movies, whether it be like an Ari Aster film like Midsummer, Hereditary, or something like The Witch, then yeah, I would recommend this. I think it would play better for a modern audience that's like used to those kinds of movies than it would have to early 2000s horror fans. So Murder Party isn't exactly a horror movie, but it's one of those like comedies that I think horror fans are actually gonna really like. Now this is actually the first movie directed by Jeremy Saulnier, a director who went on to direct a bunch of great movies, Blue Ruin, Green Room, Hold the Dark, a movie that no one else really seemed to like, but I really liked. To kind of describe what Murder Party is, there's a main character named Christopher, who's kind of a loser. He reminds me of myself. He loves Halloween and eats candy corn alone. Basically me. But he gets an invitation to an event called Murder Party and decides to go. But of course, the murder party turns out to be pretty much an actual murder party, and a bunch of art students want to murder him for their school art project. There's like a lot of references in this that are kind of fun. There's one of the art students is dressed up like Pris from Blade Runner. There's another one dressed up as one of the baseball furies from Warriors. And I love how, like, if you look at any other horror movie, the murderers are gonna be these like really like threatening people, but here they're just a bunch of art students. They're like really pathetic actually. It's a funny movie. It's got a kind of dry sense of humor. It might start off kind of slow for some people, but it kind of builds up towards like a really fun ending. I think it's worth a watch. I really enjoyed this one.
Please! The killer's out here! He's following me!
Who's following you?
He's a man. He's in a clown costume.
You got any mind? All Hallows Eve is yet another horror anthology. So this is a movie that has like a great concept, but the execution is, it's okay. These kids are with their babysitter. They come home from trick-or-treating, but one of them gets a mysterious videotape that they decide to play. And it's a videotape with a series of violent, disturbing, vile horror shorts. And they're all connected by this evil clown named Art the Clown, who is basically, if you combine a clown and a mime, I know, it's terrifying. For the longest time, I was kind of like turned off by All Hallows Eve because I was like, this isn't Terrifier. I haven't watched Terrifier either, but I didn't know which one to watch because they both had the same clown guy in it. But they are in like a shared universe, so maybe that'll help you decide. Something this movie has, great costumes. The costumes in this and the gore effects, just fantastic. I really love, there's a segment with an alien, but like the alien is actually some kind of creature that you can't really tell what he looks like, but he's wearing a gray alien like Halloween mask, and I thought that was really creative and cool. There's a very like creepypasta-esque vibe to this, which some of you may be like, ugh, creepypastas, those aren't scary. But I think it's just kind of cool to actually see someone kind of translate that sort of thing into film and almost succeed at it. Although to be honest, Channel Zero kind of did that and did it better than anyone else. But what bogs All Hallows Eve down and makes it overall just an okay movie to me is just the acting in it is like atrocious. I really appreciate the effort though, because I know I can act, so I can't say much about it, but like the fact that he was able to get all these people together to just make a movie, like that's commendable. So All Hallows Eve, you know, it's not great, but it's worth checking out just for like the great effects and the costumes. You know, I enjoyed it.
They're just being normal teenage girls.
I'm not dying in this room with you! I'm not dying!
You know, we're almost not even related anymore.
Of all of the werewolf movies ever made, I think Gingersnaps is one of the very best. It's just full of that like late 90s, early 2000s edge. I miss horror movies like that. Like even when they were bad, most of them were at least entertaining. And that was like long before the like long going torture porn period of horror movies where, you know, you'd have some good ones every once in a while, but not a lot. In this movie, Bridget and Ginger are two goth girls in high school who have a fascination with death. They're always doing crazy stuff like faking their own deaths and filming it because that's what goth girls did in the early 2000s. But right around the time that Ginger gets her first period, she is attacked by a werewolf, and those two things kind of coincide with each other, with people thinking it's because of that she's acting strangely. So a lot of the movie is Ginger changing into this different person and Bridget kind of having to deal with that. I think it perfectly balances out like legitimate horror stuff and teen drama stuff. I think this is one of the better werewolf movies out there. I think it's very well made. And if you are a big fan of like early 2000s or late 90s type of horror movies like The Craft or Scream, then I would definitely recommend you check this one out.
That's the house where it might all happen tonight, or it might not. We shall see. We're going to investigate one of the most baffling and fascinating areas of human experience, the supernatural. Tonight, television is going ghost hunting in an unprecedented scientific experiment. We hope to show you, for the first time, irrefutable proof that ghosts really do exist.
Ghost Watch is one of TV's greatest pranks. So it was on the channel BBC One in Britain. They had a live broadcast on Halloween night that was taking place at a haunted house, and live with big quotation marks, of course. But this was kind of like a War of the Worlds situation where people legitimately thought this was real because it was just that convincing. There was actually a phone number at the bottom of the screen people could call that would inform them that it was a work of fiction, but the problem was the phone line was full because there was just too many people calling, so a lot of people couldn't get through, and that kind of just added to the panic. This movie was actually like banned from BBC for a while. They wouldn't play it again because it just caused too much hysteria. And though it is clearly like a staged production looking at it now, I think that what's kind of cool about it is when I first heard about it, I was like, yeah, those people are gullible. But then I watched it and I was like, okay, this is like genuinely really well made. Whether or not I would have fallen for it, I don't think so, but who knows, maybe I would have. I think the strings kind of all fall apart towards the end. It gets really out there and ridiculous with all the ghost stuff. I think one of the things that helps add to that like creepiness of the special is they make up this character of Pipes the Ghost, and he just seems like a real ghost, or like some like story people would make up about a ghost that haunts a mansion. I actually see Ghost Watch as the precursor to a lot of those Adult Swim like infomercials and such, like Too Many Cooks or This House Has People in It. I don't know if they're like directly related in any way, but I feel like we have Ghost Watch to thank for those amazing experimental short films.
Don't check your dial, folks. You didn't tune into Transylvania's public access station. No, sir. Tonight is Halloween.
Halloween is Satan's night, the night of the devil.
Reporter Frank Stewart has a special Halloween treat in store for viewers tonight. He'll be leading a group of paranormal experts to the infamous Weber House.
All right, here we have WNUF Halloween Special. Now, WNUF Halloween Special is actually really similar to Ghost Watch, although it doesn't take itself really as seriously. It's much more of a comedy, and of course it didn't air on live TV. But it's very similar in the sense there's a news broadcast where they are going to be exploring a haunted house on Halloween night live. But what's really cool about this one and different from Ghostwatch is it's got these authentic ads built into it. I mean, this feels just like you're watching a recording from a Halloween night in the 80s. It's got like the VHS static and everything. Now, if I were to pick between this and Ghostwatch, I actually probably think Ghostwatch is better, but I think this one is still worth checking out. It's a lot of fun and just so much effort was put into everything. It was also actually made for like the price of $1,500, which is just super cheap and proof that pretty much anyone can make a movie.
What was that?
We're gonna get out of here. Get up, Judy! Yes, you can!
Night of the Demons.
Where you going? The party's just begun.
Rated R.
Night of the Demons is like The Evil Dead, but bad. But don't let that scare you away because it's actually still a lot of fun. A bunch of friends go to an abandoned house on Halloween night. They decide to hold a seance, and of course, demons start possessing everyone. Now, this is one of those movies on the list that is just very weird. There's a lot of weird moments in Night of the Demons. One of which is when one of the girls who's possessed takes lipstick and she just kind of like sticks it into her boob. I can't describe it. It's a thing that happens. There's also the Stigmata martyr dance that Angela does in this movie. It's pretty great. There's a lot of great makeup in this movie. A lot of cool looking demons that are pretty memorable. So yeah, if you haven't, check out Night of the Demons. It's not my personal favorite, but I think a lot of people out there enjoy it, and I think a lot of you might as well.
These are Chug.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. Prepare for horror, laughs, and thrills in this outrageous sequel to the home video hit Chug. Chug 2.
But the Chug.
Starring Brian Robbins from Head of the Class, Garrett Graham of Police Academy 6, Robert Vaughn, Bianca Jagger, Larry Linville of MASH, and many other popular stars.
A dead body is nothing to be afraid of.
And the last movie I have to talk about on my list is, of course, Chud 2, Bud the Chud. So it should be noted that Chud 2 has like nothing to do with the first Chud movie, but it's a movie that I would say is both worse and better. Chud 2 is definitely more of a horror comedy. The first movie took itself pretty seriously. And also the Chuds in this movie, they're not like those Chuds in the first movie. No, these are zombies. They're just straight up zombies. Garrett Graham does like a great job as Bud. He's the most memorable part of this movie. There's a lot of great lines in this. I love the zombies just going around saying, eat 'em up, yum, yum, yum.
Eat 'em up, yum, yum, yum.
It's stupid, but that's what's fun about it. I also love that there's like a big Halloween party in this where all the Chuds go to. Just any movie with a big Halloween party, I'll probably enjoy. It's got a lot of like memorable comedic moments. I love the scene where the girl's dog is kind of turned into one of the Chuds, and she's just watching as a mailman is being like viciously attacked by this small dog. There's a scene with like a very badly ADR'd kid in this movie where he says, "Bitchin' costumes," and just the way he says it, it's amazing. It's the best thing ever.
Bitchin' costumes!
Chud 2. Is it good? Probably not, but it's fun and it's got a lot of Halloween stuff in it, so it's a perfect Halloween movie.
You came here to be scared, right? Welcome to Hellfest.
Hellfest, rated R. Now playing in theaters.
So my apologies for like the sudden change of scenery. I just realized that I had forgotten to mention the movie Hellfest, which is actually very fitting considering it's a pretty underappreciated movie that few people seem to like but me. But Hellfest is about a girl and her friends who on Halloween night go to this traveling Halloween carnival called Hellfest, and it seems really cool and fun at first until it turns out that there's actually a murderer among them who is getting away with killing people one by one because it's a haunted Halloween attraction. You know, nobody's gonna notice murders in a haunted Halloween attraction. But I really like this movie. I don't really find it scary or anything, but I just think it's like a fun, creative slasher movie. I love the visuals in this movie, mainly just because I have a love of like haunted houses and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really cool seeing a horror movie that like takes full advantage of that setting. I often see this movie being compared to Haunt, which is weird because that's a horror movie that I really didn't like, and yet I think a lot more people tend to like that one for some reason. I never really understood it because I actually kind of liked the characters in Hellfest, but I found a lot of the characters in Haunt to be pretty annoying. But it doesn't really matter. I think if you're a horror fan, there's a good chance you might enjoy Hellfest. It's not guaranteed because, as I said, not everyone loves it. But yes, it's still one that I'd say is definitely worth checking out around Halloween. So that is all that I have to say for now. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. But I hope that everybody watching this has a great Halloween. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.